All right, so let's move on to Scam Wankman Freak, as I'm now going to call him. This is a quote from Mark Cahodes. Mark Cahodes, for people who don't, if you want to know something about this, you really should follow this guy on Twitter. See what he's been saying. He's been on Hedge Eye TV twice talking about it. He was on Dimitri Kofinas' Hidden Forces podcast. Actually, I didn't get much out of that podcast because he was intentionally saving it up for a later date, because he's got Gretchen Morgensen has now come out with an article which he helped, I guess, put together. He gave her the information, because I think one of the funniest things I've heard is that the Bloomberg crypto team said it was all too hard and didn't want to report on it, which was so fantastic. So full disclosure, I didn't know this guy existed until 10 days ago. Never heard of him, which is weird, because now that I've seen all these photos with Bill Clinton and Tony Blair and just about everybody in the universe, and that he's the second biggest donor to the Democratic Party, and that he's part of the, what do you call it? The altruism, what do they call it? The
effective altruism.
Effective altruism movement, which I know a little bit about because I listened to Sam Harris, who's, I mean, I don't think he's had people on. He actually had Sam Bankman-Fried on his podcast, which I didn't listen to because I find the effective altruism stuff really boring, and that's not why I listen to. I find it to be a very sort of elitist idea, because it's only really, I mean, Sam Harris would disagree with this, but I mean, I'm worried about my own financial welfare, right? I'm not like, I'm not really in a position where, I mean, it would be possible for me to give away, say, 10% of my pre-tax income, but I can't really afford to if I want to have a comfortable retirement myself. So I feel like it's a really elitist sort of movement. It doesn't have anything for average people. I think, it's and Sam Harris is I wouldn't say he's had several people on his podcast to talk about it. He has said that he felt it was a little sort of culty as a movement.
A little.
But he does do it. I mean, he does give 10% of his pre-tax income away, and I mean, he can afford to. He can afford to.
I know, yeah. It's just.
But do you want to give us a rundown? Can you give a sort of a 30-second, 1 minute on who Sam Bankman-Fried is, where he came from? I mean, where did this guy come from?
Oh, he's a nobody. Just a lot of people in crypto come from nothing. So that wasn't totally strange. And then when you get a whole new ecosystem created in finance, often they don't come from the existing system. So that's not totally strange, but it's just the level of trust that people have put in him here clearly isn't justified. And this altruism thing is part of that, because people look at that and think, well, how could someone who's into this can do all this sort of stuff? But if you understand what he's doing here, he wants to be altruistic. So how do you become altruistic? Well, for the greater good. Some people have got to get sacrificed, so you can give away a lot of money. So you can do some very evil things.
So that's probably, I think what you just said is probably the most generous interpretation, and probably one I could buy, which is that, okay, he's doing good and the ends justify the means. So if he's got to rip some people off in the West to help people out in some poor country over in bongo land, then it's fine. That the ends justify the means, and this thing got away from him to the point where, now he's kind of doing what a lot of left-wingers would like to do anyway, which is fleece people from the West and give it to poor countries. And like you say, that can get you into some pretty evil shit, because I think this guy, I mean, when you see him on stage and you see the things that he says, he sounds I marveled at like this guy in his dirty shirt and his uncombed hair, and you're just like, who's listening to this idiot? But he did actually graduate from MIT with a physics degree and a minor in mathematics. So he's no idiot. He's obviously not an idiot. And so that's what leads me to believe that this persona that he's just sort of hey man, I walk around in my loafers and I sleep on a futon, and like it's all manufactured.
Well, Elon Musk does this. Elon Musk lives in a little house and doesn't care about stuff, and you got Zuck does exactly the same thing. Doesn't wear a suit and tie.
But I mean, Zuckerberg looks like his clothes fit properly. He's not out of shape. Yeah. Like this guy's a schlub. Like he's a slob. I mean, he's got stains on his t-shirt. I mean, he just. I mean, yeah. But people, some reason people are. I mean, even Elizabeth Holmes, for example, she wore turtlenecks. She tried to impersonate Jobs. She looked. She looked like she had a shower in the morning. Basically, he doesn't. He doesn't. To be honest, he did turn up to a Senate estimates committee on something in a suit, and looked like he had his hair trimmed a little bit. But I mean, I'm amazed at this kind of stuff. I mean, I look at that Michael Saylor, who's got, who he is?
MicroStrategy, ex-CEO.
Yeah. Who's now underwater. I think he's got an average purchase price of Bitcoin at $39,000. He's leveraged. I think actually. I don't
know about leveraged. It has to drop down to about $5,000 or $4,000 before he gets called. So he's fairly well protected here still. But then it's only on a percentage as well. So.
But he's got a dodgy background too. And this Sam Bankman-Fried. So he doesn't have much of a background, but the guy, his chief legal guy, was actually part of a poker scam, one of these online poker sites where they were looking at people's. I mean, it's just got dodgy written all over it. I suppose the only thing Bankman-Fried can do at this point is sort of go, "Hey, I didn't know any of this was going on. I was completely in the dark. It wasn't me." I don't know. It's hard to buy that.
Well, you look at Dan Loeb. I don't know if you've seen pictures of Dan Loeb, but he's a smart dresser, and the whole team is dressed to the nines, and he's in New York City, like the full-on tower, and Third Point is invested in this crap. Yeah. And you think, what the hell's going on here? Like,
I'm not saying I want to be. I'm not saying that dressing nice gives you credibility, but I'm just saying, to me, the whole. I mean, and okay, I'm saying this with the benefit of hindsight. Now I know he's a fraudster, but I didn't know him before this, so I didn't have an opinion. But it looks like an affectation. The whole thing looks like an affectation. It looks like a performance.
Yes.
But another interesting thing came out, because Mark Cahodes, if you listen to him, he's been saying things like, no one knows how he made his money. Now, I think maybe you initially said to me offline that he initially made money by arbitraging Bitcoin from Korea to
Japan. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you listen to, so Dimitri Kofinas had Cahodes on. The next podcast after that, he had another two guys that work in the crypto space, and one of them said that he doesn't believe that he made his money doing that arbitrage. That he said there was nothing in it. There wasn't a real arbitrage. He said there's like a basis point in it. Mm-hmm. It didn't, and so he didn't make his money there.
Oh yeah, maybe.
So I mean, who knows? But these are the kinds of things. I mean, look at these people like Scaramucci.
Wow.
And Raoul Pal, who's I lost interest in him years ago. I think Grant Williams did. Grant Williams' timing is, I don't know why Grant Williams left. I don't even know if he said publicly why he's left. why he left that Real Vision that he started with Raoul Pal. But after he left, he did turn into a crypto pumper big time, Raoul Pal, and he would pump anything that's in that space.
I know.
And he,
So there's a whole heap of things that's coming out in this. But I'll just tell people again, you shouldn't be trusting third parties. Like that's the idea of decentralized currencies, is you're supposed to be, bearer of your own assets. But people, because I've been through this, since 2009, so I've seen this so many times. It's just not funny anymore. But people just need to learn that again. Doesn't matter how shiny.
It shouldn't be surprising that this whole new space attracted huge amounts of fraud. I mean, of course it does. Always does. And you're only now starting to see where the bodies are buried. I mean, this year's been pretty bad for crypto. There's probably going to be more. More of this stuff. It's sort of what's interesting from an investment point of view is trying to figure out what's going to be left, what's going to be worth investing in. I don't think I know enough, anywhere near enough, to be able to do that. Did you want to go through any of these points here that you had next to Cahode's great quote there?
Like one of the things that he's suspected of doing is printing his own token. So that's FTT, and then shifting that and using that as collateral, and then not telling anybody that he's done this, So everyone's got this dream, of creating their own money out of thin air. Like, everybody, everybody would love to have that ability.
I don't.
But, and we know that government shouldn't be trusted with this ability as well. Like, I know the Greens are trying to push at the moment that the RBA should be moved into as a government department, and
of course.
So, and we know why that is a terrible idea. And even with the RBA, they don't have the best self-control, and they get it wrong constantly.
And they're influenced by politics.
Yes, and so what Bitcoin does is basically an alternative system. So we're not supposed to be trusting people. We're supposed to be trusting maths. So you're supposed to, not people, not institutions, not governments. You're supposed to be able to trust cryptography and putting your faith in maths, to protect value. But when you give up that, and there's no bailouts. So if it goes bad, it goes really bad. And and I've got a few other sneaky ones in here, greed doesn't stop, laws don't stop people being greedy, all this stuff is illegal. Like, it's not like, oh no, it wasn't, you can do this stuff, and it's just not regulated. It's illegal what he's doing, he's supposed to be a China wall. I don't know, you remember that word?
Chinese wall, well, I had when I worked in broking, there's a Chinese wall between your corporate department and your analyst department.
And clearly that isn't between Alameda and FTX. Like, it's just a free-for-all, and he's supposed to have backdoor programs working between the two, transferring assets. And there's even more, the ones that really get me upset is front-running customers. Like, imagine that. If that comes out, he should be chucked in jail. He should go straight to jail. Like, there's no moral, you can't claim anything here. Like, your front-running customers, changing, just terrible stuff. We talk about in finance how Citadel and, Jane Street, he comes from Jane Street. So I don't know if he got these ideas from, these dark pools in Jane Street. You got these great ideas. I can move over to crypto and do it even better. Hopefully it's not some of this stuff happening in Jane Street. Because if it is, that really will affect us. There's this big fear that crypto collapses and then the market is going to collapse. You remember that fear a couple of months ago? It's going to bring everything down. But obviously that's not the case. So
I don't know why it would, to be honest. Unless everybody.
Contagion type thing. But it's all I think it's fairly safe here at the moment. But yeah.
Well, about front-running customers, there are quite a few claims about that. I mean, one of the claims in the Morgan Gretchenson article on NBC was that some guy bought a something called a cover protocol crypto token, and put about 10 grand in, and then it went up 30-40x. He was trying to get out at 300,000-400,000, and he couldn't. And that he kept on getting this message pop up when he tried to liquidate and said insufficient liquidity for this trade. And then it basically went to zero, right? It ended up going to zero. He couldn't get out. And he was in an email exchange with that Dan Friedberg, who's the chief. This is the poker guy that was caught up in that poker scam, who's the chief regulatory officer,
Oh, man.
And basically tried to bribe him off. So he said, because this guy was also the investor was also a artist or something, and he said, we'll pay you a Bitcoin for you to do some artwork for us, but attached to that contract was basically that would clear FTX of any wrongdoing, because this guy was saying, look, this guy's running, Friedman is running a pump and dump. That's what he's doing. You know? So they basically sent him this Bitcoin and shut up.
Yeah. So this is where part of the story comes, because we know there's a lot of areas where Sam has sent people Bitcoin. Okay, so there's lots of people who've actually got Bitcoin from. So it's like, well, where did he grab all this from? Like, you can't just create this unless he's a hacker or something like that. That'd be a very interesting movie. If it comes out there like he's hacked somebody big. So I don't know, but he has had a whole heap of Bitcoin, and you can't just, create this stuff out of thin air. Like, it's impossible to just create. But he supposedly got none now because none of the collateral is Bitcoin. So that's why the price hasn't collapsed, because no one's forced selling on Bitcoin here. It's just
that's what I'm so shocked about. That's why I would have thought Bitcoin was could be back to single digit thousands, like 8,000 or something. But no, it's held up reasonably well.
So unless he's holding some himself privately, like that we don't know about, outside of this whole system, which he could do. And you can see FTX got hacked as well, supposedly. But it's an inside job, everyone. And I think they've got the guy now. So
oh, really?
Yeah, because he's transferred, and blockchains aren't anonymous. They're pseudo-anonymous. So if you link it to your exchange or whatever, and they've got you done KYC on there, they know who you are. So the person had to, do some liquidity to move some coins, and they traced back the addresses and found the guy. So he's going to be in a world of pain. But I want to say, like Mark said, all these people need to send back the money. Send it back. Yeah. Like, there's a heap of small investors here that have been hurt really hard. Like all the Republican Party, Brady, all these celebrities who've got millions and millions of dollars. And it's shameful.
Good luck with trying to get that. I mean, the hole I've seen is there's an $8 billion hole, which always means if that's the first estimate, it's going to be at least double, probably, or more. I mean, Code's comment there that he thinks it'll make Bernie Madoff look like Jesus Christ. I
don't know. His SBF is now on Twitter. He's come back onto Twitter, and he's basically just saying, I just got the leverage wrong. But we still, he's trying to revive it now. Somebody give me $5 billion, and we'll, it'd be all good. So none of this, it's just all, misinterpretation. We weren't, talking to each other, and between our research arm, and it's just really disappointing, And what the regulators are gonna, the Howey test is now going to be applied. So for me as a Bitcoiner, this is actually a godsend. Because all these shit coins are going to get wiped. now, because now the SEC is going to go, okay, hard line. We need to protect the consumer. How we test applies to all this stuff, and 90% of them are going to get burnt.
Going to go away. Yeah.
And then where do they go? Well, I think Ethereum doesn't pass the how we test, so because it has a pre-mine on it. So, but they're saying, it wouldn't have passed, but now it does because it's more open and blah blah blah. So it's like, well, can I set up a security, and then later on in 5 years' time, before the SEC gets me, I change it, and then see, like, I don't know. So there's a few people here might be a little bit worried. So, I don't know.
That's what happens. Capital gets disintegrated in bubbles, and that's what's going to happen. A lot of people are going to have their capital disintegrated. It's the other one of the points here. You've got altruism is a great scam. Now, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, obviously, Bankman-Fried has painted himself as the ultimate altruist. That he's what is it? Earning to give or earning to give away or something. That's the only reason they're making money. He's going to just make all this money to give it all away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it just doesn't pass a smell test at all. But
well, that's what Buffett does.
I mean,
he's got the giving pledge, so he's given away 95 or 98 or whatever it is, a huge percentage. And there's a whole lot of other people who've done it as well. So that's why he gets seen as a god. He's not in it to.
So I mean, I think that like Sam Bankman-Friedman's he's a scam artist, but doesn't mean altruism's a scam. I mean, like I said to you before, I think it's a very elitist sort of movement. It's sort of people who can afford to do that. For most, I just don't think. I mean, I suppose it's not in the sense if you think about religious tithing. That people would do that. I suppose it's not. I just feel like it's sort of maybe it's just a reflection on my own selfishness.
Yeah, well, I'll probably need to clarify that a little bit better. Like me helping out somebody else, you can have that could be seen as altruism, but what I say is like people just continually helping out everybody else without thinking that they're ever going to come on hard times. Like SBF, he was helping out the Democrats here, giving them behind Soros, $30 million, and he was supposed to give up to $1 billion over the whole cycle. $1 billion into the Democrats. Imagine what that would have done. So he's trying to buy friends here. So
there's a lot of Democrats now scrubbing their photo albums. Getting rid of the evidence.
But they're all listen to this guy, and then he thought he had a bit of a big swinging dick here, and so he was short, liquidity short, and he knew, and that's why he went to the Emirates to get money, and he talked crap about CZ, saying blah 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 about CZ, which is the other crypto juggernaut from Binance. Word got back to him, and CZ started selling his internal token, FTT, and he's got heaps of them, like $500 million worth on the open market, not over the counter, just started, chucking it on the market. And then, that started to really squeeze him, so, CZ's not a nice guy as well. Like, they're both up to their eyeballs in this sort of behavior. But, altruism, I don't fully believe in it. Like, I believe you should help people. So later on, when you fall on hard times, they help you back. So you should be helpful and caring for others, and you should, think of others. But these people that, are so altruistic, you can go back into history, and Stalin and Hitler, like those two were one of the most altruistic people in the world. Hitler's trying to save the German people here.
So are you saying you don't actually think that you can perform a charitable act without wanting or expecting something in return? Would you?
No, you can, but most people, most of the time, it is to get recognition, to absolve them to get into heaven, to get something in return. Like, I'm covering, 90 to 95% here. But yes, you can still...
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. So the rest... So that's why it's a bit of a broad statement there, but I still think...
that's good. Good. Yeah. I broadly agree with you that most people who are doing good want at least something out of it, even if it's just so people can point at them and say, isn't he wonderful, or she wonderful, or whatever.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And Sam was dripping with this stuff. Like he was over the board, just he wanted to be seen to save the world, basically. And and as I said before, that leads you down a path of who you're going to throw under the bus here to get to that point. And you can make some pretty nasty decisions. And as you can see, one of the other points here down further is amphetamines have some serious downsides. Like, these guys are taking sleeping pills to sleep at night and amphetamines in the daytime.
There's a YouTube clip of him now talking to some news reporter. It's 20-something, and he's shaking. He's like visibly shaking, and the camera's on his face, and then it switches to a camera behind him, and you can see his chair and the presenter's face, and the chair's shaking. It's like the only thing I can think about is this. You're stuck in class when you're a kid and you really need to go to the toilet, and your legs going up and down. That's what it was like. It's just
but
weird.
Amphetamines have actually got some benefits early on. Like, you speak to all the mathematicians that and you're like, oh, they love this stuff. It's just like, I can get 3 months worth of work done in a week. But it rewires your brain, risk and things like that go out the window, and patience and, understanding and self-control, all these things that are virtues of investing. Like, you wouldn't, if I woke up and heard Warren Buffett was taking amphetamines, I'd just, I would shoot myself. Everything. Yeah. So it's a personality trait here that, where you're trying to do things, force things to happen, and you're not thinking of the long-term consequences here. And it has spectacularly blown up in their face. So I don't know. But we get told in society that drugs are good. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that there is some downside to hardcore drugs. It's not, the normal.
There's a downside to marijuana if you smoke it 24 hours a day. I mean,
Yeah.
So So all right. So that's. I mean, this is sort of fascinating watching this stuff unfold. Do you think anybody will be in handcuffs before Christmas, or do you think this will be? Because I think there's a lot of unraveling to do. They can't move in. The regulators and the investigators, they have to make sure they dot all their I's and cross their T's and look into everything. So it'll probably be a while before there's any sort of real charges coming out, unless they've got the goods already. But do you think anybody will be in handcuffs before Christmas?
Well, this hacker, this internal staffer, he's basically, he's going to get shipped off first. Like, he's easily, because he's in the US as well.
Right.
He's done a KYC and everything, so he's first off the rank. He'll be picked up and off he goes. And then he's going to be a great witness now for SBF. Yep. And so the feds will be on him really hard, and so we may actually get to the bottom of this a bit better than they just shutting up and saying, oh, we're just young kids that just got away from us, this sort of junk.
Someone needs to have him on Jeffrey Epstein watch, though, don't they?
Oh, well. Yeah. And crypto is a very hard thing to control as well, because it's a bearer asset, we don't know what he controls here still. So hopefully some of these smaller investors can find a way out. But Scaramucci, mate, send back some money. Send it back.
Yeah.
You're freaking
because
rich, mate.
FTX put money into him, didn't he?
30%, bailed him out 30%. And he actually got cash money, and he bought $10 million of FTT tokens. So I know that's worth nothing, okay? But there's a whole heap of extra money that now he can actually...
Scaramucci got bailed out.
Yes.
What did Scaramucci do before this that put him under?
He was in, part of all these Three Arrows and all these other guys that went under.
Oh, God. Wow.
And he was like, linked in with all that crowd. And then, so it's sort of unraveled. And Sam came in and saved everybody. Scaramucci and seen as God, and Scaramucci's talking him up and took him to UAE, But
this is a whole universe that I just am completely oblivious to.
And you should see some of the stuff that I've read, like in BlockFi, which is like where everyone put in money to make money. So you basically put your Bitcoin up and you earn a yield on it.
I heard about this yield farming.
Yeah.
Where you get, we'll pay you 15%. How does that work?
Yeah, so
that's got to be a Ponzi, hasn't it? It's just a Ponzi.
Well, most of the time it is. So all the customers that had money in BlockFi, they got bailed out, and like, holy hell, Sam saved us all. But what Sam did was basically all the assets, what Bitcoin and blah, 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 that all had to get moved over to FTX. And everyone's gone, no, you can't do that. That's customers. We've got to keep custody of that. Oh, no, we're all moving into. So Sam was buying out all these companies, with paper, printing and blah, 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 and then using customer assets to shore up. Well, this is the alleged thing. Like, this is, I suppose I'm pushing this now a little bit too hard. But so when you add all this up, there's just so many areas of fraud here that, wow.
Scaramucci, these people should never be trusted to run anything in finance ever again. Just like, how do you come back from that? I don't know do you know whatever happened to John Corzine that ran MF Global, who in 2011, do you remember this one? 2011, it came out that he was using customer funds, rehypothecating customer funds. It blew up. He lost shitloads of money. John Corzine was very well respected in the industry. I don't know where he is today. I don't know what he's doing, but he hasn't been heard from in 10 years.
Surely you can't survive, because finance is built on trust to a degree. That's why I'm upset about Dan Loeb, because he's got a great brand here, and he's involved in a whole heap of great stuff, but then he's putting his name to all this junk. Leave that to SoftBank, leave that to all these other guys. Tiger, yeah.
I thought Sequoia had brains as well. I thought they were very well respected. Obviously, they've got a lot of...
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah. Like, they're just involved in all this SPAC fucking junk, and like it's just really disappointing. You're trying to be disciplined yourself, and you see these guys going for the easy money, and you can see why retail, then gets even hyped further about this.
Get a part of it. Yeah.
Yep. Because they see the big boys, institutions piling in. Kevin O'Leary, let's not forget him as well, piling in, which then gives the green light, for retail to take a step even harder,
I guess I've been watching from the sidelines. As I say, this whole world, I couldn't keep up with it, but there's a bit of FOMO. It's like, what's going on over there? I don't know. People seem to be making a lot of money, but I don't have that FOMO to the degree where I feel like I have to jump in, thankfully.
But, internet stocks, you have to at some point. I don't care if it's 20 years later, it's still going to be early. So, and this is what I'm starting to learn. It's better to wait. I rewatched Terry Smith's interviews again because I think I understand him, and I have to watch him 5 times. It's so simple. He is so simple that you just gloss over it. And I've rewatched it again, and in the bad times, companies still get high return on invested capital. It might be not huge, but they hold steady. They don't collapse, because net income divided by capital, capital deployed, doesn't seem to fall off a cliff. And so you're going, what's going on here? So obviously they've got a moat that's holding this show up. And you don't have to be, second year into Apple to go buy it. You can be late like Terry, buying it, decades later. when you know it's a sure thing, and you're getting to that 90% confidence level like Warren Buffett does, yeah. And we're all, let's try and find, the next, 100-bagger by taking on freaking insane amounts of risk.
You don't need to. Yeah, I know. Wish I'd learnt that a bit earlier in my life. I'm still doing
it. Yeah. Same here, but yeah.
All right. Well, we might leave it there. That's enough on FBS. This will be ongoing. Sure, we'll have some more things to say about it in the weeks and months ahead.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks everybody for listening to the Salty Investors, and we will catch you next time.